This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Sunday morning. I'm Seth Merrow, and this morning with Sully Crotty. Sully, good morning.
Good morning, Seth. How are you?
Very good. Happy to be in here on the Sunday morning. A little drizzly out in the Capital District, and I just checked. They are off the turf today at Aqueduct. I guess no surprise there. They're off also down at Churchill. So they wound up their turf season, I guess, on Friday with the stakes race they ran down there. But that's been the weather this late summer and fall, certainly. Sully, Friday I was sitting in here actually doing some work in the studio because I had to tape a couple of interviews for Saturday in the morning, and I just stuck around and did some work, as I say, and had the monitor on, and I saw your cut-ins from O'Toole's down on Central Avenue. Looked like a bustling crowd there at O'Toole's.
During the lunch hour, there was a lot of people there. Obviously, with Black Friday going on, a lot of people didn't really have to go in the office the day after Thanksgiving, so it was a really good crowd there. And they're always good to us at O'Toole's. So really enjoyed being there, and they want us back. We want to go back. So definitely a place to stop on by. If you live in the Albany Colony area on Central Ave, O'Toole's really is a nice little place there. We have 3 betting machines there as well. And they also have the Sunday package to watch all the football. So if you live on Central Ave, definitely check out O'Toole's.
Yeah, the Easy Bet concept is a lot of fun. You can go in some of these bar, restaurant locations and enjoy lunch, beverage or whatnot, and play the horses as well. And O'Toole is one of the prime examples of that right out here on Central Avenue. On today's show, as usual, we'll do a little stakes recap. We had some fun stakes to look at the top of the show. We'll do a little handicapping, take a little look at that Derby Future Pool, which closes today at 6 o'clock. And towards the end of the program, we're going to be joined by Marty McGee. He covers Churchill Downs for the Daily Racing Form, and I reached out to him in anticipation of maybe handicapping through the single six sequence, which I thought, we'll get Marty. We'll talk single six, mandatory pay on Sunday. There's a big pool. It's going to balloon up. And then some joker hit it yesterday for $500,000.
I did see that. Oof. I mean, that was a very, very tough sequence to hit. I think Tyler Gaffleone had a couple horses that paid over $40. There was two
nutty horses in there, and I wrote it down here somewhere. $7, $8, so the beginning of the sequence. Okay, then 56, 48, then 9, then 6. And that I was saying to Brian earlier, our director out here, he and Dan doing the technical work this morning. I was saying you had to feel good if you were alive for that $500,000. Because it was the favorite.
Yeah.
He's looking up thinking, I'm going to take $500,000 down with the 2-1 favorite. And that's the way it shook out.
Yeah, congratulations to, honestly, whoever hit that. I played the pick 5. I was out with the $48 horse. I hit the all button in the first leg, so I got lucky. Or the second leg, but the third leg, I did not have that other $50 horse. So, the single six, obviously, that would have been great on closing day. See how big that pool could have gotten.
I have to ask Marty if he saw any bodies go by the press box from the Churchill executive suites, because I'm sure they were planning on a lot of money coming into the pool today. Happened a few years ago down at Gulfstream, of course, with Dan Borislow. And it happened again yesterday at Churchill Downs. But we still have Marty coming at the end of the program because they had a nice day yesterday, highlighted by two of their prominent 2-year-old stakes, the Goldenrod and the Kentucky Jockey Club, but it was Stars of Tomorrow card with a lot of nice 2-year-old action. So we'll get a little recap from those races from Marty towards the end of the show, and we'll also get his thoughts on Friday's Clark Handicap as well. So we will still head down to Louisville for a little conversation. But before we do that, let's take a look at some of the stakes action over the past few days. It's been really a strong and fun holiday weekend. After a couple of weekends where it was a little bit of a lull after the Breeders' Cup. The last two, frankly, stakes action the last couple of weeks wasn't much to write home about, but it was that after Breeders' Cup kind of a lull. But Thanksgiving, always a big holiday. Kicked things off out at Zia with the Zia Derby. We watched that yesterday. And some nice stakes races out there. Penn National had some nice stakes on Wednesday as well, but then kicked into full gear with Thanksgiving at the various venues around the country. But one I wanted to certainly go back and look at, because this is a nice 3-year-old filly making a comeback. The Cumley on Friday down at Aqueduct, Grade 3 event, couple $100,000, one of the last opportunities for the 3-year-old fillies to kind of stay in their own age group. Mile and an eighth. Field of 8 in here, and the 6-5 favorite was Blamed. And you might remember her from earlier this year, where she ripped off a 5-race win streak out at Zia and Sunland, and then they were thinking Kentucky Oaks, but subsequently she went to the sidelines. Came back a few weeks ago in the Raven Run at Keeneland and ran a good second. Now in the Bill Mott barn, and comes to New York, and as the 4-horse here, you can see runs away and gets a chart margin of 3/4 of a length subsequently, as Remedy makes a nice late run, but they're 10 clear of the rest of the bunch. So again, Blamed is going to be a fun 4-year-old filly to keep our eyes on going forward. Although that said, Bill Mott said potentially the La Brea out in Southern California before the calendar page turns. So she may head out there for that one. And again, Remedy, a nice second closing effort. Another horse that spent a lot of the career kind of out of town. Indiana Grand, most recently, the Remington Park Oaks ran second there for Brad Cox. So a nice little potential 4-year-old filly to keep our eyes on next year with Remedy. But Blamed, again, you never quite know what to make of those horses. Zia and Sunland, who rip off win streaks like that, they have to step up and move into the tougher competition before you can really start to define them. But with the second on the comeback, the March to October layoff, second in the graded stake at Keeneland, and then the win on Friday at Aqueduct, Blamed, certainly a nice 3-year-old filly.
Yeah, she really is. That, as you said, a very impressive win there. I actually liked Blame in that race. I just thought, she's the Remedy in that race, because I thought She's Your Julie would have been a very big favorite and would have won that race very impressively, and Blame ran well against that horse. So, and you got a fair price.
In the Remington Oaks.
Absolutely, yeah, the Remington Oaks. So, it showed a nice closing effort there, but just can't take anything away from Blamed. Excited to see if they try to do something again before, as you already said, before the year changes.
Yeah, the La Brea again, a possibility out at Santa Anita towards the end of the year. All right, I wanted to show this one too. I had this one on the schedule anyway, just because I'm a big fan of those 3-year-old turf stakes that happen, and you can start to key on who will be potent in the next year by looking at the 2-year-old stakes. And there was a nice 2-year-old turf stake out at Santa Anita. This was the 2-year-old filly side of things. 2-year-old boy side of things will come up today. But the Jimmy Durante yesterday, $100,000 up for grabs, grade 3, a mile on the grass. And I wanted to show this also because we talked to John Lees yesterday from Del Mar. We were talking about the race, and I said I like Monette. We also mentioned Pivotina, and we were talking about some of the logical contenders. Monette disappoints at 4-1 running 10th. Pivotina went off as the 2-1 favorite. Number 6, she'll run 3rd in here. Running 2nd is number 11, Courteous. But more importantly, the number 3, Elsa, at 11-1 wins. And if you were watching the discussion with John Lees, again, we went through the logical contenders, and then John said, let me toss one out. And he said, Elsa from Mike Stidham and Godolphin. Comes in lightly raced, maybe didn't like the yielding turf at Laurel last time. And as John talked, I then jumped in and said, boy, and look at that bullet workout down at Fairgrounds. They're coming out best of 101 down at the Fairgrounds, and they're shipping west for this. I said, you know what? You look at that race 2 back where she finished 3rd to Stillwater Cove and Chelsea Cloisters, the bullet workout, they ship west. I'm going to take a little look at Elsa myself after John mentioned it. Elsa gets it done. Again, $24 and change. So I hope folks were watching yesterday and got maybe a little bit of a head start on Elsa at a decent price.
Yeah, and whenever you can get a $24 horse on a Godolphin or connections like that, that's fantastic. And Joe Bravo, another big win. He didn't pick up a win on Synchrony, but Joe Bravo, that was a fantastic ride. He held off the closing effort from Drayden Van Dyke and the favorite, the number 6 there, but the Exacta came back over $200 for $1. So you got an 11-1 over 28-1. The 11 ran a huge race there as well. But again, whenever you can get those type of connections, that type of price, you can always take advantage of that. And we already talked about $24 and change. Fantastic price for Elsa.
I got to shoot John Lees a little text and say, nice pick there. Again, it was just one to kind of look at it as a price. And the more I looked at it at the end of the conversation, I then said to John again, that Elsa is going to be interesting as well. Gets it done in the Jimmy Durante. All right, let's go to New York. Nice stakes day yesterday at New York. I pulled up the Discovery because Gronkowski is in here, and it's only a 4-horse field. It's scratched. With scratch reduced, 7 were entered. 3 had run the day before, so they were scratched out. But Gronkowski, if you watched the handicappers report yesterday, you heard Brian Nadeau and I talk, and we were kind of a meeting of the minds in that Gronkowski was a play against. Plainsman was my pick, wound up to be the choice of the betting public as well as at 4-5, and Plainsman does get a nice win here, the number 3 horse. But notably, and Brian and I talked, and I said, more and more that Belmont's looking like an aberration. Well, Gronkowski is the number 6 horse here on the rail. Can't even get up for second in this race. Kind of struggles and looks like it's going to make a little run and maybe get up for second, but gets a half a length back in third. It is Plainsman getting it done. Title ready for Steve Asmussen second, Gronkowski third. And again, I said to Brian on the handicapper support yesterday, we were down at Belmont and Belmont Stakes weekend. I interviewed Chad Brown, and I don't think he had any real confidence on Gronkowski going into that Belmont Stakes. So I have a feeling he was probably as surprised with the second place finish as anybody. And subsequently, the Travers and the Jockey Club were disappointing efforts, certainly. But then a third place finish in that scratch-reduced 4-horse field in the Discovery, it starts to make you question whether, again, that Belmont Stakes was just a little bit of a fluke.
Yeah, I could see why some people would say that. And, I've never really been a huge Gronkowski fan. Obviously, going in the Chad Brown barn, it will grab a lot of people's attention. But I was with you. I thought Plainsman was the horse to beat even before the scratches came out. And if you watch the whole replay, Jose made a move on the backstretch and kind of looked like wanted to get to the lead with Gronkowski and then faded back. And then once the horse faded
all 4 of them were right across the track on
the
backstretch, which you never see.
Right. So once I saw that, and then I saw Gronkowski going backwards from there, I kind of knew the race was over, and Plainsman would most likely hang on from that spot. But that was just weird to see all 4 of them across from each other on that backstretch run.
And you're right. Then as they went all 4 across and then Gronkowski started to go back, you started to think, it's not going to be his day.
Absolutely.
Although with his closing kick, again, in the stretch, it looked like he'd at least get up for second, and he couldn't even do that. So, again, maybe exposed over the past few races. All right, also on the card yesterday at Aqueduct, the Turf Sprint Championship. I put Disco Partner on top. Disco Partner is going to be the number 9 horse. The 6-year-old millionaire coming out of a third-place finish. I thought a decent third-place finish in the Breeders' Cup Sprint behind Stormy Liberal and World of Trouble. So follows it up in here. That one's going to wind up second as the 3-5 favorite. White Flag, who I had underneath in my mix, I thought was live. They shipped out to Southern California. Last time, 2 starts back, they just missed in a Kentucky downstake. But White Flag, the number 8 horse, pretty good looking here with a little late run to get up by 3/4 of a length over Disco Partner. Kitten's Cat third. Hembry, another horse I thought could be a little bit live in here. The 1 horse runs 4th. But again, pretty solid effort from White Flag, the winner, the Christophe Clement trainee with David Cohen on board, gets it done in the Turf Sprint Championship.
Yeah, David Cohen's been riding extremely well down at Aqueduct, so keep an eye on him. He's been bringing some prices home all meet long. But from that 4-1, I believe 4-1 morning line price you got on White Flag, he got 10-1.
Up to 10-1.
And the last couple efforts from that horse definitely take a look. It's definitely worth the look, and you got $22 and change back on White Flag. But on paper, obviously, it's tough to go against Disco Partner. Horse who took a ton of money in that Breeders' Cup race. So, but again, from that 4-1 up to 10-1, why not take a shot there? Especially because of the connections there and how well David Cohen's been riding. We saw that with White Flag, and you got paid off just a little bit there with over $22 in return.
$44 exacted with the favorite underneath. All right, and finally at Aqueduct, let's take a look at the Long Island yesterday Grade 3 event for fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up. Going a mile and 3/8 again on the grass. In here, I liked Lady Paname, and she gets it done. Or Paname, they were pronouncing it a couple of different ways. I had her in the 3rd spot. I put Lady Montdor in the top spot and Polera in the 2nd spot, but I did use Lady Paname underneath, and I thought, again, at a decent little 7-2 price and paid $9.90. She was a live performer in here. She's the number 10 horse, making a nice closing effort. It did look like Knight of England, the other Chad horse, was going to steal it on the front end. That one, the 11, winds up getting swallowed up a little bit and runs 5th in here. But Lady Paname, or Paname, wins it. Tricky Escape, the number 5 at 7-1 second. Danceland at 13-1 third. Again, I like Lady Montdor. That one is the 5-2 favorite. Disappoints a little bit, running 7th in the field of 11. But Chad's Lady Paname, or Paname, again, I heard it pronounced 2 different ways yesterday. Came over from Europe, won an allowance at Belmont in the first start in the United States. Now, the number was maybe a little bit light, but my take on that was the first race in over a year. That seemed to maybe be one that was a little bit of a fitness builder to move to a spot like that. Seems like that's what it turned out to be.
Right, and whenever you get a lot of these Chad horses in these turf races, you always get one on the front end. And as you said, I thought Knight of England was going to run away with it. The 25
coming around the turn, it
absolutely
looked like that was a definite deal.
Yeah, and obviously if you bet Chad on the grass, which a lot of people do, you were hoping that horse would get home at 8-1, and you got the 25 and 4, and then the 50 half. You thought, okay, well, this horse definitely has a chance to wire the field. But as you said, you get another Chad horse at a little bit better of a price than some of the others in there, almost get $10 in return. So really nice effort there by Rod Ortiz to get up to win that.
Yeah, so it was nice. Again, stakes weekend continues today with some stakes. They're off the turf, unfortunately, though, at Aqueduct, and I think a couple of the stakes at least were scheduled for the grass, but we'll soldier on at Aqueduct, even with the off-the-turf events, again, with some stakes action today. Stakes action again out at Del Mar as well, so the holiday weekend continues at the various venues with more nice stakes on, again, what was a really good holiday weekend as far as that kind of action. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, do a little handicapping for this afternoon, also take a little bit of a look at that Derby Future Pool, which closes today at 6 o'clock. Maybe give you some ideas. The latest odds are out, and I'll update those for you a little bit as well. All of that, and again, Marty McGee from Louisville coming up on the remainder of this edition of Racing Across America. Stay tuned.
Dirty windows? Don't do it yourself. Call Clean Image, your window cleaning professionals, and enhance the look of your business or home without the worry. Clean Image pledges nothing less than 100% customer satisfaction. It's guaranteed. Homes, offices, bed and breakfast, vacation homes, and more. Clean Image has cleaned them all. Carpet and floor cleaning, pressure washing, and janitorial services are also available. Call today, 446-1397. That's 446-1397. Online at clean-image.net.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Sign up today for Capital OTB's handicapping series and plan your trip to Las Vegas.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Sunday morning. Seth Merrow and Sully Crotty, thanks for joining us. Let's jump in and give some ideas for this afternoon. I'll be in a couple hours, I guess, with OTB Live, taking a look at some of this action as well. But we'll give you a little heads up to maybe dive in and make some interesting plays on this Sunday afternoon. Second race at Churchill Downs today. Sully's going to take a look at that. Optional claimer, non-winners of 2 other than, scheduled on the grass, 1 1/8 miles.
Yeah, if they stay, we obviously think they're going to be off the grass, so I'll give some MTOs. But I went 10, 11, 1, and 6 here because of the weather down.
They are. I'm pretty sure they are off,
right.
In fact.
So 10, 11, 1, and 6. The 2 logicals with the MTOs. Number 10 is Toasted, going out for Ian Wilkes. Chris Landeros will be aboard. This one does have a nice closing kick, and at Keeneland, I thought off the effort 2 back at Keeneland kind of threw in a little bit of a clunker, took some money there. But goes back to Churchill where the horse runs well, 5 for 8 in the money, but it's going to try this distance. Again, so the Keeneland race, I'm going to give a pass for it. If the horse runs well at the end, non-winners of 2 other than level at Churchill, like we saw 2 starts back, this horse seriously has a chance, especially with the MTO tag. The 11 is Shay's Cool. This horse as well as an MTO, but this horse definitely a horse for course angle, 7 for 8 in the money, a couple thirds in there that really could have been wins. So another Indiana Grand Shipper that came to Churchill and ran an okay second last time out, and the Indiana Grand Shippers all really have been making an impact at some prices. You're going to get a fair price here with a lot of the money probably going to go to Toasted, and then the number 1 horse, you're getting a 20 to 1 on the morning line. A horse that's run well on an off track in the past. That was a couple starts back. Horse ran well at Keeneland as well on the fast track, was on the messy track last time out against a little lesser of competition. So on the off track, this horse has ran on the dirt the last couple starts at 20 to 1. I'm going to give this horse a little bit of a chance here and should have work out a nice stalking roll. It just needs to break well from that rail spot. So in the second race, I have 10, 11, 1, and 6.
And again, they are off. Marty McGee will be on with us later. I just checked his Twitter feed. They're off today, Churchill.
Seth's going to look at 3 races at Aqueduct, starting with the third. Race number 3 this afternoon at Aqueduct. This is a claiming race, non-winners to 2 lifetime, going 7 furlongs.
And they're off at Aqueduct as well, and so that kind of limited my options for looking at races. So I will say I'm not overly enthusiastic. And again, if you pull up the handicapper support sheet on the website, usually I do a play of the day, and a lot of times for Aqueduct over the past week and a half or so I haven't, just because the turf races are most attractive, and that's kind of where I'd want to jump, but you don't know whether they're going to be on or off or what the conditions are going to be, so I've kind of skipped plays of the day a few days, and I'm in a similar mindset here. So I stuck with some dirt races and maybe some ideas for this afternoon. The third race, 7, 3, 2, and 6 for me. Wild Colonial Boy makes that class move that if you listen to me enough, you know that I like. Goes state bred allowance into an open claimer. Now, it's a little more potent when they've been in the state bred allowance condition for a while, but this horse was claimed 2 back and moved into the barn of Linda Rice, and she tried that state bred allowance condition right at the end of the Saratoga meet. So again, it's a class move I find a little bit interesting in the second off the claim, and still a boost from the claim price. They claimed for 25. They're in for the 40 tag today. At 7 to 2, I think Wild Colonial Boy could be interesting. Second slot, we'll look at short list. This one goes just from open allowance. Some starter allowances, 2, 3, 4 starts back, and a non-winners of 1 other than last time down at Laurel. Most of those were on the turf, but the last one was on the dirt down at Laurel. I thought it was okay for Jeremiah Engelhardt. I think there's some back numbers that are pretty good. Again, the surface may still be a question mark. This horse looks like more of a turf runner, having started 10 times on the grass in 14 starts. But I do think, given that last race and now the move in for the tag, short list will be a player. And Crea's Brooklyn Law in the third spot, 9 to 5 on the morning line, comes out of a 2 out of the last 3 decent efforts, and those are the 2 where the horse was in for the tag. They bookend a starter allowance race where the horse was a little bit overmatched perhaps, but again, I think at this level, first off the claim for Michelle Nevin, Crea's Brooklyn Law. Kriya's Brooklyn Law will also be a player. Third at Aqueduct, 7, 3, 2, and 6. Churchill's sixth race, again, was originally scheduled for the grass, allowance non-winners of one other than. These are 2-year-olds scheduled to go a mile.
12, 9, 5, and 1 for me. The 12 is going to most likely, it's going to be your favorite here. 3-1 on the morning line, the only MTO in here. Probably going to go around 2-1, hopefully. A horse that raced in the Iroquois a couple starts back, finished third that day. Went to the optional claiming non-winners at 2 level, and also finished third after that third place finish. Had a little bit of a price in the Iroquois. Went to Kentucky Downs. I thought ran out a decent little 6 there, but then they switched the horse back to the dirt in the Iroquois, and again ran a really nice race there. Definitely the horse to beat here with Florent Giroux and Brad Cox teaming up. The number 9 horse, that's Counter Offer. Ian Wilkes, Chris Landeros again teaming up. A horse that broke the maiden last time out. I think that could scratch this horse in this spot, but then again, has some okay numbers on an off surface, so perhaps Ian Wilkes would take a shot here on the main track, and this horse does have a nice closing kick. And then the number 5 horse in the third spot is Go Away, a horse that ran well at Keeneland last time out. Took a little bit of money because of that race at Ellis over the summer. Another horse I think that Eddie Keneally might try to keep on the main track just to see what the horse can offer. But this horse does stay on the main track. This horse seriously does have a nice closing kick. We did see that at Keeneland, a 23 into a 48-4, sitting 7th that day. And Keeneland is a tough place to close into, so that effort repeated could have this horse in the winner's circle. But in the 6th race at Churchill Downs, I went 12, 9, 5, and 1. Seth's going to look at the 4th at Aqueduct. A little bit of stakes action here. This is the Notebook. This is for state-bred 2-year-olds. They're going 6 furlongs.
I'm going to take a little bit of a shot in here. I have a 4, 3, 6, and 5. La Fuerza, the Todd Pletcher trainee. Now, it may just be they struck while the iron is hot. They had a talented and precocious 2-year-old. They put a couple $100,000 in the bank, and maybe everybody's just caught up and passed by now. But this is a horse that won 3 of the first 4 career starts. Last time out was in the Sleepy Hollow, little state-bred stakes race, and just offered up nothing. Also, I'm a buyer's guy, and the buyers are maybe a little bit lighter than you would want, given what we've seen from 2 or 3 others in here. But I have a feeling this horse, again, with the talent we saw earlier in the career, and a cutback from the mile last time to the 6 today, might be in a good spot, might be primed for a really nice effort this afternoon. And again, a little bit of value given the numbers that are maybe a little bit light and the race last time. 6-1 on the morning line for Pletcher and Velasquez. Again, I'm taking a little bit of a shot. Cusco, the number 3 horse, certainly off the last effort is going to take a lot of action. Nice 83 buyer figure, which clearly stands out in this bunch. Bullet workout since then. Have that one right underneath. And Thorny Tail, who looked pretty good in the career debut for George Weaver. That was an off-the-turf event, however, so have to take that maybe with a little bit of a grain of salt. But as I say, I'll take a little bit of a shot. We'll see if we can get a price. Kind of a crystal ball type of a thing. I'm looking at it and I'm projecting out a little more than actually basing on the numbers that are on the page. But we'll put the Pletcher horse in there, as I say, maybe one that is primed for a better effort on the scenario this afternoon. Race number 4, the Notebook. I have it 4, 3, 6, and 5. Sully's going to take a look at the turf stakes race out at Del Mar, and again, I alluded to this earlier. They had the 2-year-old fillies yesterday with a little bit of an upset, Elsa, which again, tip our cap to John Lees yesterday for touting that one a little bit on Racing Across America. But this is the boys' version of that. The Cecil B. DeMille Grade 3 event, $100,000 up for grabs. The 2-year-olds will go a mile on the grass at Del Mar.
I went 2, 3, 6 in the 1 horse here. I went with the 2 in this spot. Kent Desormeaux will be aboard for Richard Baltas. And this is a horse that raced in a stakes race last time out and wants to get to the lead. Ran very, very quick fractions going a mile. 22 and 2 and 45 and 1. And it's very hard to wire fields with those fractions. So the horse ran an really nice third, I thought, with giving those fractions. So the 4-1 with the value there, you get Kent DeSormo aboard, and you got some speed in a short field. I'll use this horse on top. The number 3 horse, most likely will go off as your favorite. Mike Smith is going to be aboard for another speedy horse. Broke the maiden last time out, but facing winners for the first time, jumping into stakes company. I'm going to kind of put this horse underneath in my mix. I think the speed, this horse is going to play catch me if you can. The 2 is going to be sitting just off the pace, and we showed, and as we already said, very gutsy performance with quick fractions last time. So I'm going to use Mike Smith in the short price underneath. And then the 6, another short price for a horse facing winners for the first time, but that was a very deep and competitive field at Santa Anita. Horse was in 11 horse field, got up to win that race by a nose. This is a horse that should be in a stalking role. Does have a decent little closing kick. We saw 2 starts back at Del Mar and a nice bullet work over in November at Santa Anita. So this horse with Flying Pratt, it was a very nice turf rider we'll use underneath at a short price. But hopefully the 2 gets ignored just a little bit and can show a little bit of a gutsy performance again in this short field. In the 6th race at Del Mar, grade 3 event going a mile on the grass, I went 2-3, 6-1. And finally, Seth's going to look at race number 9 at Aqueduct. This is a state-bred maiden claimer. They're going to be going 6 furlongs.
1, 2, 6, and 7 for me. Tracy's Girl, 5-1 on the morning line. Charlie Baker moving maiden special weight to maiden claiming. I'll be interested to see if this morning line holds up, because again, it is Charlie Baker making a class move that's kind of potent. Horse with plenty of speed from the rail. Now, it does tend to fade, and maybe the numbers. I think that for the most part they stack up well with this group. And it won't surprise me to see a number, move forward with the class relief. But I'm supposing the numbers are maybe what are scaring, what is the reason we're getting the 5-1 on the morning line. Because again, maybe they're a little bit light as compared to Call It a Truce, who I have in the 2nd spot, given that 51 number. We saw 2 back, and Miss Flambe, who had the 44, a couple back as well. But those aren't significantly better than the numbers fired by Tracy Girl. And as I say, with the class relief moving into a maiden claimer, I think that moves this horse forward. So Tracy's Girl to me is logical, at least as a solid contender. So the 5-1 looks awfully generous to me. Call It a Truce again underneath, 7-2 there. The number 2 back was very good in the career debut. The follow-up had some trouble there, and we'll kind of hope that factored in, but the trouble was at the start, and the horse got into the mix subsequently, but maybe it was enough of a bump to kind of take the steam out of this one, and then to rush up and be in the mix may just have compounded that a little bit. Have a 10-pound apprentice on board. That's always a concern, but the horse, again, last time did show a little bit of early foot. I like that with apprentice riders on board, because essentially the trainer can just say, send them out of the gate and go as far as you can. Belcourt in the 3rd spot. Michelle Nevin trainee, debuted for a 50 tag up at Saratoga with a pretty good looking effort. The number a little light, but comes back for a reduced tag off a little bit of a layoff. Wouldn't surprise me if we get an improved performance this afternoon. So the 9th at Aqueduct, 1, 2, 6, and 7. So there are some ideas for some of the stakes today, but we also want to remind you that the Derby Future Pool number 1 closes today at 6 o'clock. The betting obviously has been open for a couple of days, so we have an idea now of where the betting may go. And obviously, you wanted to wait until certainly those races at Churchill yesterday were run, so you got some idea, and certainly on the stakes side as well. And just to give you an idea, Signal Man, the winner at Churchill yesterday, 37-1. Decent little price there on Signal Man. You're looking at the morning line here. I have updated odds. All others, which is not a surprise. This far out from the Kentucky Derby, all others is probably the smart bet, and all others is 7-5. But to give you an idea, some of the horses that are single-digit odds, Coliseum for Bob Baffert, 8-1. Game Winner, no surprise there, 6-1. Instagram just outside of the single-digit odds. Instagram is 10-1. I pulled up a replay here because we had Joe Christofek on with us yesterday. on Racing Across America, and we talked a little bit about this wager, and he mentioned Tale of the Union. Just wanted to show that one in the career debut out at Del Mar. Wins off by 8 lengths for Bob Baffert. And again, it's a Bob Baffert trainee, Tale of the Union, 43-1. Now, the concern for me for Tale of the Union hasn't been seen since this effort at the end of August. Now, it does have some workouts going into September. I tried to look up online to see if there was some reason this horse went to the sidelines. Couldn't find anything, but that would be the concern for me. But that's kind of the concern with all of these. If you're going to bet into this, game winner at single digits, Coliseum at single digits, Instagram at 10-1. Yeah, this far out from the Derby, it's not just they have to get in the gate and win the Derby. It's they have to get in the gate this far out. So yeah. I would want something like Tale of the Union at 43-1, or even Signal Man, who had the nice win yesterday over the Churchill Strip. 37-1 on him is pretty good. But I think you have to look in that 30-1 range or better and feel like, oh, okay, I'm going to take a little shot on something that I think may be a runner next year, but you're going to get paid to at least potentially make it to the gate.
Yeah, that's half the battle. As you said, you got to make it into the gate, and this far out, the prices are definitely correct on most of these, and even if you're a big Bob Baffert fan, you're still getting a fair price on a game winner. But just looking at some of these replays and over the past performance sheets, there's a lot of speed in here. So last Derby there's a lot of speed as well. I don't know if any of these horses are at Justified's level just yet, where they can hang on to those fractions, because it might be quick fractions again with the amount of speed we're seeing on paper.
That's kind of why All Others is a favorite.
Exactly.
Because these are the precocious types that you have at this time of the year for 2-year-olds. So it'll be interesting to see. But my guess is probably, 3 or 4 of these maybe make it into the gate, actually. By the time we get into January and February, things will start to sort themselves out, and a lot of these are already going to be on the sidelines because, again, they're precocious 2-year-olds, they're good sprinters, but when things start to stretch out and they start to face that kind of competition, some horses who may be getting a little bit of a later start, as they say, some of these are going to fall by the wayside.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the safe bet obviously is all of the 3-year-olds who are 7-5. So, but there is some closing horses in here, and you're getting huge prices. So it's just a big question if they're going to make it into the gate. But it's definitely interesting to see these future pools right now in November and see how a lot of these horses will progress going into the new year as we go towards May.
And typically there have been 23 single interests and then the all others, but this year there's 22 single interests. There's the all others, and then there's all other 3-year-old fillies. I'd stay away from that. 77-1.
Yeah.
But just the rules are against that.
Yeah.
You're 77. Give me about 500-1, and I'll take a shot on one of the fillies making it, and then subsequently winning the Derby. As I say, that seems like you're really pushing it a little bit. But it's a kind of a fun concept, I suppose. But again, even the 77-1 doesn't look like enough value for me on that spot.
No, definitely not. Maybe if Monomoy Girl could run in it again, I would take the 77-1. But at the 77-1 for the fillies, and it's just tough for the fillies to get into the gate to start with. I would need a bigger price as well.
There's also a Kentucky Derby sire future wager. That's kind of fun. They have 23 individual sires, and if one of them sires the Kentucky winner, you win. There's also an all others there, but you can take a look at that. Bernardini, Cairo Prince, Candy Ride, Tappet, Tisnow, Uncle Mo, Violence. So the Kentucky Derby sire future wager also closes a little bit later on today, and it's kind of fun. You see the morning line there for that one. So you can jump in there too. Again, another kind of an interesting little quirk. So, and they've said it themselves, the folks at Churchill. This early, November of the 2-year-old season, this is almost a promotional event for them to kind of promo and get people thinking about the Kentucky Derby. And tip of my cap to them for doing it. But as I say, this early, a lot of these individual horses aren't even going to make it in. But the sire future could be a little bit of an interesting way to kind of give yourself a little juice going into the Derby next year. You can root for a number of horses that are produced by your sires. The 3-year-old trail progresses.
Yeah, I've never been big on the. I just started looking at the future sires last year, so definitely another thing to look at. Sometimes you get better odds if you're a big fan of some sires, and I know a lot of players are. They pick out their sires and they stick with them, so potentially one of your sires could be on the future sires
and again,
list.
give you a few horses to maybe root for as the Derby trail progresses. And if one you like goes to the sidelines, one could come forward by that sire as well. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, Marty McGee. He's down at Churchill, covers the Churchill meet for the Daily Racing Forum. We'll talk a little bit about the stakes yesterday, the two-year-old stakes, and the undercard as well. It's a nice 2-year-old day yesterday. Go back and look at the Clark also. Marty McGee up next. Stay tuned.
Visit Rivers Casino and Resort, the Capital Region's only destination for live table game action and the hottest new slots paying out millions. And they're off. Horse betting is now at Rivers Casino and Resort with Capital off-track betting terminals and live tellers located just off the gaming floor at Van Slyck's. Get in on all the action at Rivers Casino and Resort.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices, to know how to connect the dots? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool, but not the only tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. These too are important tools, and you'll find them all right here at Capital OTB. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Seth Merrill and Sully Crotty in the studio, now joined live by phone as promised earlier. Marty McGee from the Daily Racing Forum covers the Churchill meet for the DRF. Marty, good morning.
Guys, how are you this morning, Seth and Sully?
Very good. Happy to have you on board to recap a little bit. And I said at the top of the show, and you and I were talking during the break a little bit, game plan was going to be to go over the single six with the carryover that was going to play into a mandatory today and probably balloon up. And I have to ask, as you looked out the press box window as they came under the wire for the last race yesterday, were executives falling from the roof?
Yeah, well, people were saying it was kind of karma for Churchill because as you guys know, on Friday night they had a double DQ in the last race, which just by chance happened to make the single six carryover into Saturday, and we all thought, of course, that it wouldn't get hit yesterday, Saturday, and it would, as you said, balloon up. They probably would have had at least $1 million in handle today, but no, somebody on Twin Spires hit it for $500,000 last night. It was a very difficult sequence with a couple of bombers and an allowance race won by Jimmy DeVito, and then, of course, the Goldenrod won by a filly trained by Wayne Catalano. So I don't know if anybody was jumping off the roof because of that, but and anyway, we're in a press dungeon, I call it. They took the press box away 5 years ago. So I
was going to say, now that I think about it, the press box, you probably don't have that window out underneath the roof anymore at Churchill Downs. But boy, they had to be looking at. I would have said $2 or $3 million would have been possible, given what they played into Santa Anita a couple weeks ago.
Well, they had the carryover, Seth, would have been about, I think, $340,000. So usually it's about triple, I would guess, whatever the carryover is. Although it depends on what day of the week it is. But yeah, nonetheless, it was kind of a letdown. I haven't even really handicapped very hard today at Churchill because of that. I was thinking about diving into that pool, but no.
I'll be interested to see what the handle is because, again, you and I were talking during the break, and I said shades of Dan Borislow, and if folks don't remember, he was a prominent owner before he passed away and also a prominent player, and he took down a Florida Rainbow Six the day before there would have been a mandatory. But what was interesting, the next day, I think people just in their mind had so keyed into playing it, they still had a pretty good pool. They put like $300,000 in, if I remember.
Yeah, I guess today I would say they'll bet less than 100,000. I was trying to think of that myself. Maybe I'll say between 50 and 100 is what it'll be. And again, they would have bet probably at least $1 million today. Otherwise,
yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And going back to that sequence, you're right. It was a tough sequence, obviously, with only one person taking it down. But I'll tell you, the guy who had the ticket had to feel pretty good when he realized, hey, I can win it all with a 2-to-1 favorite. I had the 2-to-1 favorite for $500,000.
Yeah, that was a horse named War of Will, and he actually ran on the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. And then just in the course of some conversations I had with his trainer, Mark Cassidy, following the Breeders' Cup, of course, he won one of the races with the filly and mare sprint with Shamrock Rose. I was asking him about some of his other Breeders' Cup, and he said, yeah, we're going to run War of Will on the final Stars of Tomorrow day on the dirt. And lo and behold, that was a plan that really came together because that horse just galloped. And I would assume that Mark now will try and transform War of Will into a Derby-type horse. I'm just looking down the road at Gulfstream, maybe he'll run him in the Bucho Macho Man at one of those ungraded races going a mile in early January. That would be my guess.
Yeah, he looked pretty good. Only 2 horses were alive for somebody to take down the whole pool, and of course one of them was War of Will there yesterday. And I also want to go back Thursday and Friday because you alluded to it, you mentioned it already Friday, but I had Joe Christofek talk to him on Friday, and we were talking about Thanksgiving. I said, boy, that had to be a crusher for somebody on their Thanksgiving. The Thanksgiving card, somebody almost picked up the whole pool but ran second. But I said, at least they lost by about 4 lengths or so. But again, on Friday, there was a double DQ. The horse that came under the finish line first was going to pay out the whole pool, but subsequently the double DQ. But do I understand this correctly? When the lights first went up, the winner wasn't even involved. It was only after the stewards looked that they looked at the winner and moved that one down?
Yeah, it was a highly questionable call, Seth, in terms of them taking down the winner. It was. I wrote a fairly lengthy scribe on Twitter yesterday morning, and if you follow my Twitter feed, DRF McGee, you can read that. It's facts and opinions. My opinion is that the winner should not have come down, but it was a no-brainer that the second horse should have come down. But it was one of those 10-minute inquiries where they get out their magnifying glass and start splitting hairs and decided that the objection should have gone beyond just the third horse against the second, and they started looking at the third horse against the first, and lo and behold, they took it down, and there was a lot of gnashing of teeth and wailing after that because there were 2 8-to-5 shots taken down in favor of an 8-to-1. And, besides the implications, the huge implications of the single six. So, I actually talked to Barbara Borden, one of the 3 stewards here at Churchill yesterday, and she said, it was a judgment call. And in their judgment, the winner should have come down, and there's honest disagreement. I told her, and I wrote in the little piece that ran on DRF Live and Twitter, no, it was just extremely marginal. It was ticky-tack. And the winner should have been left up. And I know that Ian Wilkes, the trainer of the winner, presidential tweet, or the unofficial winner who came down, he actually was he's hard to rile. Ian actually called the stewards and said, I respectfully disagree. And he was so vehement in his comments, evidently, that he called them yesterday morning to apologize.
And oof, that was it. Talk about your tough beats for the guy who had that for the Rainbow Six. But again, it was hit yesterday. So rather than go over the sequence today, we'll concentrate on some of the stakes action. We'll take a look at the Clark in a few minutes, but get some of your thoughts yesterday on the 2-year-old action. And let's first take a look at the Kentucky Jockey Club. The 2-year-old stakes, obviously, at this time of year play into the 3-year-old scene early next year with horses that kind of signal themselves as potential players. I liked Signal Man in the Kentucky Jockey Club, but as I handicapped it here on the network yesterday, I said not with a lot of confidence. I was really kind of searching, and I just landed on this horse a little bit by default. But Signal Man does get it done, gets it done by a neck, the number 1 horse. Bouquet Parfait, the number 5, runs second. Limonite runs third in here. But again, I thought the Kenny McPeek horse looked pretty good, and kind of, as we can see, sneaking up and getting the victory by a neck. It was the 5th career start. The 2nd win came out of previous to this, the 3rd place finish in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, but gets it done. And again, always nice to get a stakes win over the track the Kentucky Derby will be run on.
Yeah, we'll go to Florida, and Signal Man will be one of the top 15 or so candidates to come back here in May, Seth, and be a major contender. He's probably going to go to Payson Park. Kenny, who over the last 20 years or so has gone to a variety of different places, including Fairgrounds and Oaklawn, he's going all in on Florida this year. He's going to have strength at both Gulfstream and Payson. Signal Man, he couldn't have been happier with the way he ran yesterday. He has, as you mentioned, proven his quality beforehand, being the runner-up in the Breeders' Futurity, 3rd place finisher in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, and then a terrific win yesterday. Both Kenny and Brian Hernandez, the jockey, were really happy with him, obviously. So the main disappointment in the race, as we all know, was Nick Go, who won the Breeders' Futurity and was second behind Game Winner in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. He chased the pace and just came up real flat. He was 11th as the 3-1 favorite. There was really no excuse for him. So maybe those players who ignored him at 70-1 in the Breeders' Futurity and 40-1 in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile were right after all. But he too will go to Tampa for trainer Ben Colbrook after this, and I'm sure he's in regroup mode right now with him. And one other note on this race: Brendan Walsh, the trainer of Plusca Parfait, the runner-up, who was coming off a maiden win on opening day at Keeneland. Brendan told me afterwards, I couldn't be happier with the horse. He's really excited about him, and he will go to Fairgrounds from here, and I would assume take the Risen Star / Louisiana Derby route to the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, because he was coming out of a maiden breaker and only his 3rd career start, so he's a horse that seems to have a little future. Nick's Go, I handicapped yesterday. I put him down in the 3rd spot, and my comment was, I missed the wedding. I missed the wedding reception. I don't know if I want to be on board for the funeral. And I thought the 13 post position might be a little knock on him.
Yeah, that's the same way. I mean, if you miss, that's a good overall handicapping tenet, Seth. If you miss the wedding and the reception, why do you want to go? Why do you want to take 3-1 when you could have gotten 70-1 and 40-1?
Yeah, it was certainly one of those type of situations. A little bit earlier, Goldenrod for the 3-year-old fillies. Obviously, I like Restless Rider. I like Restless Rider in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile filly, where I thought she ran a good second to Jaywalk. Looked to make a nice move at the top of the stretch in that Breeders' Cup race and just couldn't catch up to Jaywalk. She goes off as the 3-5 favorite yesterday, but Restless Rider, the number 5, runs second to Leora, one of the bigger prices in that single 6 sequence. The Wayne Catalano runner pays $56 and change, and I think worth it. I mean, this horse had just broken the maiden last time, and if you're a buyer guy, and I am, the horse was going to have to step up and run big. Certainly did yesterday. Just getting past, or just holding off, I guess, Restless Rider there late. But again, $56 and change for the Wayne Catalano trainee.
Yeah, it was kind of the same race for Restless Rider yesterday as it was in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile fillies. When they turned for home, she swung out. She was right there, and it looked like, she's got a quarter of a mile to get past, and she just couldn't. So I know that Kenny McPeek was a little he's quite disappointed, actually, that she got beat. But he did have Princess Warrior and the Mrs. Revere on Friday, and, of course, he had the winner of the Kentucky Jockey Club yesterday about an hour later. But Leora, she was another horse coming off a maiden victory. That one was here at Churchill Downs, and Wayne Catalano, it looks like he has a contender for the Kentucky Oaks. She will go to the Fairgrounds. Big disappointment in the Goldenrod was the second-time starter break curfew for Chad Brown. Really no excuse from her outside post as a second choice, and this was her stakes debut and everything else. So we'll have to see what she's like going forward.
Yeah, she winds up 7th in the field of 8 as the 5-2 second choice. Let me just get some quick comments before we move on to the Clark. Obviously, it was Stars of Tomorrow, so 2-year-olds all day long. Like to know what you thought on the undercard. There were a couple of performances that stood out to me. In the 8th race, Boldor, a few weeks ago, I liked that horse, and I was really impressed by his stretch battle with Supersteed. They were well clear of the 3rd place finisher, so I like Boldor. But Supersteed turned the tables yesterday and won off by 6. Boldor, an okay second in there, 87 buyer for Supersteed. But I'll tell you the performance on the day that stood out to me, the Invader from Laurel needs supervision in the 5th race yesterday, comes in from Laurel at 37-1. Gets it done, and Joe Rocco on the turn just kind of clearly puts the gas pedal down or asked the horse and just cruised up and cruised by the favorite Meadow Dance for Brad Cox. But boy, that was a really nice performance, I thought, from Needs Supervision. That was an 81 buyer.
Yeah, Needs Supervision, trained by Jeremiah O'Dwyer, was coming off a maiden win at Laurel. So the tendency of players here is to dismiss the unknown, but she sure did blow him away. A painter filly who surely will be a factor in some of these major 3-year-old filly stakes going forward. So she was one of a number of impressive horses yesterday. Another filly who I thought looked really good was a filly with a huge blaze named Fancy Dress Party. She's now 2 for 6 for Ben Colebrook, who of course later subsequently had the disappointment with Nick's Go in the KJC, but. I thought War of Will, Seth, was really looked good, and again, I think that Mark Cassidy might have, he's having run him 3 times on the grass, and now he has him on the dirt. I'm sure he's pleasantly surprised with what he's got there. He's a war front, so I'm sure that's why Mark initially ran him on the turf, but he might be all right on the dirt.
Yeah, interesting day yesterday that typically produces some runners to pay attention to when the calendar changes. Marty, let's go back to Friday before we let you go and get some thoughts on the Clark. We'll watch the stretch drive there. Brad Cox gets it done with Leah Frick. Bravazzo for the coach, Wayne Lucas, runs second. Leah Frick's the number 5. Bravazzo, the number 6. The favorite at 3-2, Seeking the Soul, the number 3, runs third for Dallas Stewart, who's having a pretty good meet down there. But again, I was watching the Breeders' Cup. I think it was the simulcast signal. I don't think it was NBC. But at some point, they interviewed Brad Cox, and they said, it's time that we stop introducing you as the up-and-coming Brad Cox. I think with Monomoy Girl and performances like this, Brad Cox has certainly signaled himself this year as one of the top trainers in the land, and it was a nice performance from Leah Frick in the Clark on Friday.
Yeah, Brad's in the top 10 this year in terms of stable earnings, more than $14.3 million. He's had just another breakout year. He's a terrific guy. He grew up here in Louisville, and he's done a fantastic job with Leo Frick. He told me yesterday morning that they're thinking about maybe running in the Pegasus World Cup. I would guess probably not, but otherwise Leo Frick will run as a 6-year-old, probably with the Oaklawn Handicap in April as his main early season goal. Bravazzo, he danced all the dances for the coach. I thought he put in a terrific effort. I imagine he'll also go to Arkansas for the winter and probably point for the Oaklawn Handicap. Seeking the Soul, mildly disappointing, coming out of the one-turn mile back to the 2-turn Clark, and a decent performance as the 3rd-place finisher there for Dallas Stewart, who has in today as the leading trainer 11-10 over Steve Asmussen with 12 races to go here at the Churchill Downs Fall Meet.
Yeah, the human side is kind of fun. I saw you wrote a little piece on the DRF. We were talking again with Joe Christofek, and I was talking on Friday, actually, taping a piece. So at that point, on the jockey side, Edgar Morales, I think, was in the lead after Thanksgiving Day. And unfortunately, kind of rooting for the young guy, but he's now a couple behind Tyler Gaffalione on top, Corey Lanery with 19, Hernandez and Morales each with 18. So that the jockey side is going to be fun this afternoon as well with 12 races.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's the human side always a little interesting when it gets down to the end, and they're kind of neck and neck. Well, particularly one of these meets like Churchill Fall that kind of stands out. Marty, as always, appreciate the visit. We'll tell people to check out, again, your Twitter feed as well. Folks have been showing that as we put you up on the screen. We've had the Twitter feed out there. They can check that, or your columns. the hard copy of the Daily Racing Form or online, drf.com. Marty, again, appreciate the visit, and we'll talk again.
Okay, thanks as always, guys. Have a great day.
Marty McGee, live from Churchill Downs as they're wrapping up their meet. Again, unfortunately, we don't get to chase that carryover. Somebody walked away with $500,000 yesterday. Somebody had a good Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's some of that. You know, now you have all your holiday shopping and then some. So, right?
Yeah, he's covered.
Right. Yeah, he's all good. He's good for a couple of holiday seasons, I think. So,
exactly.
Yeah, nice hit there. But I do think it's GP West is closing day, and they have their Rainbow, which has the potential to get up for the mandatory pay. So if you're still looking to hunt one down, there's one at Gulfstream, I believe.
Definitely worth a look then. We'll keep that in mind on this Sunday afternoon. Let me hit you with some of the promos. Today it's a football Sunday here at the Clubhouse Racebook. Wear a jersey. You get in for free, put your name on a square, and you can potentially win a prize. That's every football Sunday here at the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue, the same location that you can spin the prize wheel potentially on Wednesday. Put your name in the hat, and folks randomly selected throughout the afternoon. There are bet vouchers, merchandise available on the prize wheel. Come on down and either spin yourself or maybe root other people as they spin. That happens Wednesday here at the Clubhouse Racebook. Thursday, there's a $100 knockout challenge. More information at the website. Friday, the bounty bet returns. Again, we'll alert you to that as we get closer this week as far as jumping into the bounty coming up on Friday. Essentially, all you do is play the Pick 4 with your Capital OTB bet account, and you're in the pool to take down part or all of that $1,500 bounty. But again, that comes up on Friday and Saturday. Again, I'll remind folks here on the network, Sully, Mike Callahan, headed down to Aqueduct for Cigar Mile Day. So that should be fun.
Yeah, looking forward to that. And, you know, I went down with you last year. It was great. That, you know, can't thank Naira enough. They really do treat us well, and the media box is awesome there. So looking forward to going down. Really nice card on that Saturday, including the Remsen as well.
Yeah, nice stakes card, and we'll be covering it live here on Capital OTB TV. All right, I'm going to wrap things up for this edition of Racing Across America, but remind you that I'll be back a little over an hour or so for racing action on OTB Live. But Sully, good luck this afternoon.
Yeah, good luck to you.
And good luck to all of you. Racing Across America wraps now, but again, be back in about an hour with OTB Live. See you then.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.